Second Ezra chapter 7, verse 42. He answered me and said, this present life is not the end where much glory doth abide. In this article, we feel poorer because we are poorer. Here is proof. I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Yahweh, who the world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai is his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And there is no God beside him. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone for being faithful witnesses to the Holy Spirit. And salutations to the elect when the Most High have given ears to hear. This world is circling a dream. This world is circling a drain. It cannot prosper under its current rulership. All right? The so-called white man, the warmonger of the earth, will ensure your downfall, your pain. All right? As we are in the midst of what is known as the Third World War. Right? Or we're in the beginning stages, rather, of what is known as the Third World War. The scriptures is known as the Third War. As this war heightens, all right, more money will have to be, or more resources and money will have to be taken out of your hands and put into their military arsenal, all right, their military personnel. And therefore, you're going to be hurting. Right? This is why we look for the downfall of this devil. As it is written, you know that, damn, Salakia. Forgot the precept, but basically when this devil goes down, nations shall learn war no more. That's a very potent prophecy. You can find that in Micah 4, Isaiah the 2nd chapter. All right. So it says, measured by the purchasing power of our wages / work, we're definitely poorer, as it takes far more hours of works now to pay rent. You know, and the fact that you have to pay rent again proves that you are in hell. All right, you are in a low condition. Shelter, as the scriptures call it, let's see. Salakia, bear with me. Sirach 29 and 21. The chief thing for life is water, which we have to pay for, bread, and clothing, and in house to cover shame. Right? So certain things, as we live on this earth, is actually warranted us. All right? These are essentials. There's another scripture, let me see. Sirach 39 and 26. The principal things for the whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron, salt, flour, wheat, honey, milk, and the blood of grape. As a matter of fact, in certain instances, when you go into history, you know, like certain thing like you know, or really in history, you know, your substance was considered your riches. You know, whereas today you think money is riches, your substance are riches. Now your substance or your money buys you your substance, which, is what makes it so much more painful, because this devil's warmongering spirit takes away from your livelihood and the blood of grape and oil and clothing. All these things are for good to the godly. So to the sinner, they are turned into evil. Right? And we under the man of sin. So all these things, is is withheld. Here it is, essential things are withheld from us. Because we're under this devil. Let's not overcomplicate what's straightforward. We're becoming more prosperous when our wages, labor, buy more goods and services. Most especially, the essentials of life: shelter, food, energy, utilities, transportation, higher education, healthcare, childcare. If the money we have left after paying for essential buys more discretionary goods and services, we're getting a lagniappe of prosperity. I don't even know what that means. Okay, it says extra. A lagniappe means extra. Something giving as a bonus or extra gift. It says, if the non-discretionary essentials are consuming a greater percentage of our earned income, we're becoming less prosperous, i.e., we're poorer. And that's what these devils want. They say, this devil Kyle Slobs, you can look it up. He says, you will own nothing and be happy. Let's look that up, actually. Own nothing.
People on planet Earth in just 7 years are going to own absolutely nothing. I thought about this and I thought that's a little extreme. I wonder what they mean. And so I wanted to look not what people said about this, but going to the actual sources of the World Economic Forum. I wanted to know, what did they mean by this idea that you will own nothing and be happy? Let's go to an article in Forbes that were specifically told in the article. You can see right there that it was contributed by the World Economic Forum. And it says, welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better.
I mean, your cell phone? Why do you want to own a cell phone if you can just lease it? And if you lease, why shouldn't you lease your refrigerator or your washing machine or your dishwasher? Or why do you want to own it? I mean, it's not like the plastic and the metal. It's like, I own it.
The scary part of that is that if everything is leased by these big tech companies, what happens if they don't like us? What happens if we step out of line and they decide to cancel us on a individual level, like they did with the Russians, where they just said, no more Netflix? If they cut off the supply of what you're leasing, what it does is it gives them complete control and complete power.
People on planet Earth
and that's what it's about with this devil. All right? Either you follow him, he controls you, or you don't live. Right? And that's what they want to implement within these next 7 years. Otherwise known as what? Agenda 2030. Now it says, most especially the essentials of life: shelter, food, energy. As we just went into, energy, which represents fire. Oil today. Which oil creates fire. It says utilities, transportation, higher education, healthcare, and childcare. If the money we have left after paying for essential buys more discretionary goods and services, we're getting a lagniappe of prosperity. If the non-discretionary essentials are consuming a greater percentage of our income, we're becoming less prosperous, we're poorer. Those tasked with persuading us that gradual impoverishment is actually soaring prosperity have near infinite statistical means to obscure this straightforward measure of prosperity. the purchasing power of labor/earnings. If our hours of work buy less non-discretionary goods and services, we're getting poorer. That software, TV, and airline fares are cheaper is meaningless because they are occasionally discretionary purchases that make up a tiny slice of total cost of living expenditures. The status quo cheerleaders in the Ministry of Truth ignore the $5,000 annual cost increase, the $5,000 annual cost increase, and essentials while trumpeting the $100 decline in occasional discretionary purchases. Your vacation costs you 100 more hours of work, but you save $50 on airfare, so it's all evens out. No. The only metric that's an accurate measurement of prosperity and impoverishment is the purchasing power of your labor. Everything else is noise designed to obscure inconvenient reality. Not surprisingly, it's difficult to get accurate data on past real-world costs of essentials. What we hope to find is the actual price paid in previous years and the median wages paid at the same time. This data gives us an accurate measure of purchasing power. How many years of work, how many hours of work did it take to pay rent, pay healthcare, insurance, buy a used car? This is the kind of table we hope to find. Rents paid in Hawaii by decade. And it goes to show you from the 1970s, all right, up until today, you see rent increases tenfold, damn near tenfold, you know? Or let's say, you know, it's a lot, you know, 70 into 670. Let's see how much that is. Yeah, almost tenfold, you know? So that's ridiculous, man. So much so that soon enough, you know, you're gonna be working just to eat, you know. Whereas it's not gonna be money that you'll be given, you know. Your job, your day's wage might be just food, you know, a portion of food at that. But what we often get is data that's been adjusted and is difficult to align with real world costs. Here's the Federal Reserve database chart of consumer price index for urban rents of primary residence, which includes everything from a shabby studio to a sprawling single-family dwelling. That range makes it less useful than specific numbers for specific classes of rentals. The data isn't actual rents paid. It's an index that's arbitrary set to 100 in summer of 1983. So if your rent was $500 a month in 1983, the equivalent rent is 4 times or $2,000. Additionally, data can be scarce as in this chart of rents in the high-cost San Francisco Bay Area, where I also sought rental housing, so I know actual rent costs from the 1980s on. Fortunately, there's a simple chart of median weekly earnings for full-time workers from the first quarter of 1979 to 2033. Now, you see it says rent increased 500% pretty much since 1983. And since 1987, it increased by 400%. So it says, fortunately, it says, okay, now we can make very simple calculations of purchasing power. How many hours of median wage work does it take to pay typical market rate rent? To keep it simple, let's use total earnings before taxes and deductions. In 1978, I was earning $300 a week as a young construction worker, somewhat about the median range of $232 a week. I rent a small shabby studio for $135, well below the average rent of $250 for a one-bedroom. The market included a wide range of rental options, a big difference from most markets now, in which there are few low rent options even in not so great parts of town. It took 18 hours of work to pay my rent for the month. That's 2.25 days. If I paid the average rent of $250 a month, it would have taken 33 hours of work, about 4 days to pay rent. If I earned the median wage and paid the average rent, it would have taken 43 hours of about a week's earning to pay the rent. In 1987, in the high-cost San Francisco Bay Area, my wage had dropped to around the median, and I was paying $550 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. It took 55 hours of work to pay the rent, or about 7 days of work. Let's stop for a moment and ask, where in the urban U.S. can a 22-year-old worker make a bit more than median wage, pay the rent with 2.25 days of work? In today's economy, my wages in 1978 would translate into about $1,400 per week. And so my studio apartment rent would be 2.25x my daily wages of $280 or $630 a month. I submit there are a few urban areas in the U.S. where young workers with average skills and experience can earn $35 an hour and rent a studio apartment. What we find instead of rent in places like the San Francisco Bay Area that averages $2,400 a month for one-bedroom apartments, so those earning the median weekly wage of $1,120 must devote 2.15 weeks of their earnings to pay rent. 11 days of work, more than half their earnings. This is almost triple the days of work needed to pay rent with a median wage in the 70s, and 60% more than the days of work needed to pay rent in the 80s and 90s in two of the most expensive urban areas of the nation. So it says, measured by the purchasing power of our wages, we're definitely poorer, as it takes far more hours of work now to pay rent. If you need more evidence, consider the cost of decent non-deductible healthcare insurance in 1986. I pay $50 a month each for my young, single employees, about 5.5 hours of median wage. Now the equivalent insurance costs a minimum of $350 a month, or 12.5 hours of median wage work, more than double the hours needed in 1980. Over time, the decline in the purchasing power of our wages has stripped away hundreds of thousands of dollars of value over a lifetime of work. I'll read that again. Over time, the declining in purchasing power of wages has stripped away hundreds of thousands of dollars of value over a lifetime of work. Rents that now require twice as many hours as they did 40 years ago mean we've lost thousands of a month of purchasing power. Sorry, pundit, saving $20 on low-quality toy or $100 on a low-quality TV or $100 on airfare doesn't offset $100,000 lost each decade in the purchasing power of work. Let's not overlook the fact that the median wage is skewed by high-wage workers. Tens of millions of workers earn far less than $1,120 a week for full-time work. And this is not including the fact that whatever you do make is getting taxed more as well. The more you make, the more you get, the more they take, as they say. And this is what this devil wants, so much so that in a few years' time, as mentioned, and money being printed at a crazy rate, you got to understand that what you make will only be enough to get you through that day. Again, as they want you to own nothing. own nothing. Things would be so very, very expensive, you know, that you just happy to get a slice of bread for the day for your family, or a few slices of bread. And this devil wants slaves. He doesn't want entrepreneurs. Everybody is an entrepreneur living on their own. Which that's why it's so much better under Yahweh Shai. Eventually, these nations won't go into captivity as well, but eventually, even the Lord is going to have mercy. This devil has no mercy. In our laws, in the scriptures, the Lord will always, he allowed a year of Jubilee to where man will be set free after a while, and he would, do his own thing. He would be able to sustain himself, but not in this society. The only one that can own anything is the top echelon of the society. Soon enough, not even, your Floyd Mayweather's, is gonna be able to own, a house in every continent in the world. Hell, he won't be able to own a house in his in one state. Because that's where everything is heading. To have the very bare minimum. To where you just living in a like I said, 15-minute city, a shoebox. But yeah, as I read in the beginning of this lesson, this life is not where much glory doth abide. All right? That's why, as crazy as it may seem, we're looking forward to World War III. It says, but the day of doom, verse 43, but the day of doom shall be the end of this time. All right? And the beginning of immortality for it to come. Going to show you also that the earth abideth forever. Because you would think the day of doom would have consequences on the whole earth being destroyed. But really it's going to replenish the earth, restart the earth. All right? And it's going to destroy all the dross thereof, even this devil. All right. And all the disgusting acts that he has. So, Laki, 1 second, Laki. That he has put upon this world. But it says, in the beginning of immortality for it to come, when corruption is past, and temperance is at an end, and fidelity is cut off, righteousness is grown, and truth is sprung up. All right, so now the world can go back to living how it was supposed to, prosperously. So that's pretty much it. Something quick. With that, shalom to the elect. Oh, and before I forget, that's why this place got to be destroyed. If you haven't understood already, this devil is not looking to give you technology for your benefit. All right, it's for his benefit. He's setting up pain and bad times on this earth. Well, essentially, it's the Lord, but when you see this devil, all right, because he put this devil here to orchestrate bad times, as this earth is full of sin at this point. All right, so it's not in his interest, because not in the Lord's interest, to allow him to prosper, as is written of in Daniel 7. That prosperity, basically prosperity, immortality, everlasting life, happiness is going to come through Yahweh Shai. Daniel 7, Daniel 2, Revelations 21. So with that, shalom.